5,000 guests invited, Princess Leonor's wedding to shake the monarchy. A royal wedding, limits expected. Then, 5,000 guests. Not tradition. A gamble. The monarchy itself is shaken. They said the royal wedding would be grand, but nobody expected this. When Princess Leonor and Prince Christian announced that nearly 5,000 guests would attend their wedding, the reaction rippled through Europe's royal houses, the media, and the hearts of ordinary citizens. This wasn't mere extravagance, it was a signal. A statement. A deliberate move to shape how monarchy is perceived in the modern age. From the moment invitations went out, the sheer scale became the story. But behind that number lay strategy, tension, hope, and risk. In this narrative, we peel back the layers: who came, who was left out, how the palace managed chaos, and how this wedding may redefine the relationship between crown and citizen. In royal circles, weddings are carefully planned, with guest lists tightly controlled. But Leonor and Christian chose differently. The decision to invite 5,000 people was not just about festivity, it was about a monarchy opening itself. It was a move away from exclusivity toward inclusion. The palace argued it was a chance to include more citizens, cultural figures, regional representatives, and everyday heroes. People who embody the Spain of today: artists, activists, community leaders, citizens from remote provinces. It was meant to be a bridge. But not everyone agreed. Some court advisors cautioned: with so many attendees, security risk, logistic nightmare, potential for missteps. Some traditionalists worried that opening the doors too wide would dilute royal dignity. But Leonor insisted. She envisioned a wedding not just for elites, but for the people. The announcement of 5,000 invited guests stunned media across Spain, Denmark, the UK, and beyond. Headlines asked, is this a royal wedding or a mass celebration? Critics called it populism in a crown. Supporters called it bold and democratic. And royal observers asked, will this gamble pay off? Pulling off a wedding of this magnitude tested every palace department: protocol, security, catering, transport, seating, guest flow, crowd control. Invitations had to be coded, guests vetted, zones assigned. Thousands of volunteers and staff worked in secret for months. The venue had to be scaled. Grand squares, overflow tents, live screens, auxiliary chapels, gardens opened. Public squares near the palace prepared for overflow crowds. Transportation routes were blocked. Security perimeters established. Diplomatic delegations were channeled separately. On the day, chaos shadowed the beauty. Traffic snarls. Overcrowded entry points. Guests arriving late. Seating confusion inside tents. Families shuttled between sites. But through it all, the ceremonial core remained. Leonor's entrance, Christian waiting at the altar, vows exchanged in a majestic cathedral. At one point, a delay occurred. A block of guests from a remote province was delayed by weather. Protocol insisted they be seated before certain dignitaries. Leonor intervened personally, asking the ceremony to wait those few minutes. It was a moment that went viral, a royal bride halting her own wedding to honor citizens. Among the 5,000 were royal figures, heads of state, ambassadors, and traditional elite. But many more were cultural luminaries: artists, musicians, filmmakers, writers, sports heroes, civic leaders, local mayors, educators, health workers, volunteers, people nominated from every Spanish region. Some were ordinary citizens selected through public recognition programs. Yet in that inclusion was exclusion. Some traditional royals were absent or sent lower-ranking representatives. Some old court allies were not invited. Some critics claimed this was a symbolic shifting of alliances. The guest list itself became a message: who is now inside royal favor, who is moving outside. In the weeks after invitations were published, rumors flew. Gentle feuds behind closed doors. Uninvited older family branches. Fragile royal diplomacy. Some Northern European houses quietly ousted or downgraded their delegation. Those excluded became footnotes in coverage of the wedding. But that was perhaps intended. The monarchy, through Leonor and Christian, seemed to be setting new alliances, closer to civic life, farther from aristocratic obligation. The guest list was becoming a map of the monarchy's future priorities. The symbolism was potent. A royal wedding becoming a people's event. A monarchy leaning outward. A bride who refused to choose a private, secluded affair. The optics, 5,000 guests, open gates, full squares, were meant to convey accessibility, unity, legitimacy. It was an assertion: the crown belongs to the people as much as it belongs to lineage. The wedding speeches reinforced the symbolism. Leonor, in her address, referenced the thousands present, not as spectators but as partners. She spoke of her future reign as ours, inclusive, accountable, close. She said that to serve the crown was to serve every citizen, not just elites. Christian echoed that tone. He acknowledged his in-laws, his home country roots, but he also spoke of shared national values, democratic respect, humility and service. His vow to Leonor included reference to duty to all, not just to titles. Public reaction ranged from awe to skepticism. Many citizens felt pride. "I'm part of it," they said. "I stood under the arch where royalty walked." Others felt overwhelmed: too many guests, too much spectacle, wasteful. Social media lit up with images of crowded tents, ornate decor, citizens in tears or joy. Some critics said they'd prefer a more modest wedding. Others praised a monarchy coming alive. Royal commentators debated: had Leonor crossed into populist monarchy? Or had she redefined monarchy for the 21st century? Was this a turning point or a risky overreach? In the days following, everyone talked about scale. Documentaries aired. Newspapers dissected logistics. Local newspapers in rural towns printed stories of citizens flown in to attend. Royal stables and palace accounts were busy showing how they managed. More telling were the political and cultural responses. Opposition parties in Spain accused the monarchy of lavish expense, questioned who paid, and elevated calls for fiscal scrutiny. The palace published full budget summaries as a transparency move. Cultural institutions magnified the attendance of artists and civic leaders to show connection to Spain in all its parts. In Denmark and Europe, observers watched whether the wedding model would influence other monarchies. Would crowns adopt broader public inclusion? Or would such scale be too risky politically? Inside the palace, change was underway. The staff structure was reshaped. A new citizen relations office was created to manage outreach, to handle public suggestions, to coordinate events at regional levels. The monarchy began instituting monthly open palace days, regional royal visits, platforms for public voices. The wedding's guest list had become a bet on bridging distance between throne and citizen. Relationships too were tested. Some excluded royals and courtiers quietly complained. Some alliances shifted. But for Leonor and Christian, the wedding was a defining moment, a public covenant with the people. As months passed, birth announcements, diplomatic tours, and royal programs were measured against the wedding's scale. Was she keeping her promise of inclusion? Or was the 5,000 guest spectacle a one-off? Some local events were intentionally small to reassure balance, some were large to continue momentum. Historians will mark this wedding as a hinge between monarchy as a distant institution and monarchy as a living, participatory symbol. Whether it succeeds or falters will depend on consistency, humility, and legitimacy. For now, the wedding's echo continues. The squares stand empty again, the floral arches removed, but the memory of 5,000 voices gathered in hope remains. The monarchy is watching whether the love, inclusion, and symbolism of that day can be carried forward, or whether the weight of ambition collapses under scrutiny. Princess Leonor's wedding, by inviting 5,000 guests, shook the monarchy not with scandal, but with crowds. The gamble was audacious, the message bold, the future uncertain. But history will remember that day as more than a union, it was a reshaping of monarchy itself.